The majority of drivers who check and fill their own tires are making at least one of 5 critical mistakes that result in either chronically overinflated or underinflated tires, directly causing premature wear, reduced fuel economy, and increased blowout risk. Yet every single mistake is completely avoidable once you understand the correct procedure that takes less than 5 minutes. According to the Tire Industry Association and studies by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, approximately 85% of vehicles on American roads are operating with at least one tire outside the correct pressure range, with the majority underinflated rather than overinflated. This statistic isn't because drivers don't care, it's because widespread misunderstandings about where to find the correct pressure, when to measure it, which gauge to trust, and how to actually add or release air correctly lead to systematic errors that compound over months of driving. The most common mistake, checked by the NHTSA and roadside surveys, is drivers using the maximum pressure number printed on the tire sidewall rather than the vehicle-specific pressure printed on the door jamb sticker. These two numbers are different, and confusing them is the single most common cause of overinflated tires on American roads. A tire that shows maximum 51 psi on the sidewall might only require 32 psi, according to the vehicle manufacturer, meaning drivers reading the tire sidewall are inflating tires 60% over specification while believing they're doing it correctly. Keep watching, because I'm going to break down every mistake, show you the exact correct procedure, and explain why each step matters to your safety and tire life. Hey, if you like this kind of straight-to-the-point content with no BS, help me out here. Subscribe to the channel right now. It takes 2 seconds and guarantees you won't miss any tips that could save you some serious cash. Let me start with the biggest and most widespread mistake, reading the wrong pressure specification. Every tire has 2 pressure numbers associated with it. The first is printed on the tire sidewall and reads something like max press 51 psi. This number is the maximum pressure the tire structure can safely contain without risk of rupture. It is not the recommended operating pressure. It is a structural limit, nothing more. The second number is printed on a sticker inside the driver's door jamb or on the fuel filler door on some vehicles. This number, typically between 30 and 36 psi for most passenger cars and 35 to 45 psi for trucks and SUVs, is the pressure your specific vehicle manufacturer determined provides the optimal balance of load capacity, fuel economy handling, ride comfort, and tire wear for your vehicle weight and suspension design. These two numbers are completely different because they measure different things. The sidewall maximum can be as high as 51 psi. The door jamb specification for the same tire on a specific vehicle might be 32 psi. When a driver reads the sidewall, inflates to 51 psi, and drives away thinking the tires are correctly inflated, they are overinflating by nearly 60%. Overinflated tires wear primarily in the center of the tread because the excessive pressure causes the center to bulge slightly and carry more than its share of vehicle weight. They provide a harsher ride because the stiff tire transmits more road impact to the vehicle. Most critically, overinflated tires have reduced contact patch with the road, meaning less rubber touching the pavement, reducing traction in emergency braking and cornering. The correct pressure is always the door jamb specification. The second critical mistake is checking tire pressure after driving rather than when cold. Tire pressure increases as tires warm up from driving due to the gas law relationship between temperature and pressure. Driving heats tires through flexing and road friction. Even a 2 to 3 mile drive to a gas station increases tire pressure by 2 to 4 psi compared to the cold static pressure. This means a tire reading 34 psi after driving might actually be 31 psi cold. If you check the warm pressure against the door jamb specification and add air to reach 34 psi, you've overinflated by 3 psi. Most tire manufacturers and NHTSA define a cold tire as one that has not been driven for at least 3 hours or has been driven less than 1 mile at low speed. The correct procedure is always to check and adjust pressure when tires are cold. If you must add air at a gas station after driving, add air to bring the warm reading to 3 to 4 psi above the door jamb specification to approximately compensate for the temperature increase, then recheck when cold at home to confirm accuracy. The third mistake is trusting gas station air pump gauges. Gas station air pump gauges are notoriously inaccurate. A Consumer Reports test of gas station tire inflation equipment found significant inaccuracies at many locations, with some gauges off by 4 to 6 psi from actual pressure. These gauges receive heavy use, minimal maintenance, and frequent physical damage that throws off calibration. Using an inaccurate gauge means you can't reliably hit your target pressure regardless of how carefully you follow every other step. The solution is owning a quality personal tire pressure gauge that costs between $10 and $25. Digital gauges provide the most accurate and easy-to-read measurements. Mechanical stick gauges are reliable and don't require batteries. Either type from a reputable manufacturer provides accuracy within 1 psi when used correctly, which is sufficient for tire inflation. Verify your gauge accuracy occasionally by comparing readings with a known accurate gauge, or by having a tire shop check your pressure with their professional equipment and comparing to your gauge reading. The fourth mistake is pressing the gauge incorrectly onto the valve stem, causing air to escape during measurement. The valve stem on each tire contains a small valve core that opens when pressed from the center. To measure pressure, you must press the gauge fitting firmly and squarely onto the valve stem, seating it completely to create an airtight seal before the pressure reading registers. Many drivers press the gauge at a slight angle, causing the gauge body to contact the valve stem at an angle, which doesn't create a complete seal. Air escapes with a hissing sound. The gauge reads lower than actual pressure because some air is lost during measurement. This leads to adding air to compensate for the false low reading, resulting in overinflation. The correct technique is to hold the valve stem steady with one hand, press the gauge fitting firmly and straight onto the valve with a quick, firm push. Hold for 2 seconds until the reading stabilizes, then pull straight off. Practice this technique and you'll notice the difference between a proper seal with no air escaping and an improper seal with hissing. The fifth mistake is using gas station air compressors to both add and release air without rechecking the final pressure before leaving. The correct sequence for adjusting tire pressure requires checking the current pressure first, determining whether to add or release air, making the adjustment in small increments, and then rechecking the pressure after each adjustment. Many drivers add air until the compressor gauge shows the target pressure, then pull the hose away without a final independent verification. Using the same potentially inaccurate compressor gauge to both add air and verify the result means any gauge error compounds without correction. Now let me walk you through the complete correct procedure for checking and filling tires. Step 1 is finding the correct pressure specification before touching any valve stem. Open the driver's door and read the tire pressure placard on the door jamb. Note the front and rear pressures, which may be different on some vehicles. Write down these numbers or photograph the placard with your phone if you can't remember them. Do not look at the tire sidewall for your pressure specification. Step 2 is ensuring tires are cold. The vehicle should have been parked for at least 3 hours or driven fewer than 1 mile at low speed. Step 3 is using your personal calibrated pressure gauge rather than the gas station equipment. Valve stem caps should be removed and stored safely where you won't lose them. Step 4 is measuring each tire using proper gauge technique. Firm straight contact with the valve stem, hold for 2 seconds. Until reading stabilizes, pull straight off. Record the reading for each tire. Step 5 is comparing each recorded pressure to the door jamb specification. Determine which tires need air added and which, if any, need air released. Step 6 is adding air using the gas station compressor for the tires that need it. Add air in small bursts of 3 to 5 seconds. Then recheck with your personal gauge. Repeat until the personal gauge reads the correct specification. If you accidentally overshoot the target, use the small pin on the back of most tire gauges or a small screwdriver to press the center pin of the valve stem, releasing air in small amounts, then recheck. Step 7 is verifying all 4 tires with your personal gauge after all adjustments. Replace all valve stem caps. Valve caps serve an important purpose. They provide a secondary seal that prevents slow air loss past a slightly worn valve core and prevent dirt and moisture from contaminating the valve mechanism. Always reinstall them after pressure checks. Step 8 is checking pressure again within 48 hours to verify no rapid air loss indicating a leak that requires repair. A properly sealed tire should not lose more than 1 to 2 psi over 48 hours. A common question is how often to check pressure. Most tire manufacturers and NHTSA recommend monthly pressure checks as minimum maintenance. Checking more frequently, every 2 weeks, catches pressure loss earlier and is particularly important for modern low-profile tires that are less tolerant of underinflation. Temperature changes require attention. For every 10° Fahrenheit drop in temperature, tire pressure decreases by approximately 1 psi. As weather transitions from summer to fall, tires that were correct in 90-degree weather may be 3 to 4 psi low in 50-degree weather without any air loss. Check and adjust pressure when seasons change. So here's the bottom line. The 5 mistakes causing most incorrect tire inflation are using the tire sidewall maximum pressure instead of the door jamb specification. Checking pressure after driving instead of when cold. Trusting inaccurate gas station gauges instead of a personal calibrated gauge. Pressing the gauge incorrectly and losing air during measurement, and not rechecking with an independent gauge after inflation. The correct procedure is check the door jamb specification. First, measure cold tires with your own gauge using proper technique, add air in small increments, rechecking after each. Verify all 4 tires at the final pressure, and replace valve caps every time. This complete procedure takes 5 minutes monthly and is the single most impactful maintenance habit for tire safety, longevity, and fuel economy.